Imagine being penetrated by Priscilla. I mean, Subaru is saying that he doesn't like it, but I'm pretty sure if you were in his position, you wouldn't mind. But I actually like this scene, and the reason why I'm saying that is not to be funny, but ReZero is a complicated show, okay? And it's really interesting if you just listen to people's reactions to the series, and you can see that some people just simply don't get it. Or maybe they're just watching it on 2x speed like Giguk does from Trash Taste. However, it essentially shows what happens with Subaru's new body parts, namely his black leg, considering he's been cursed by the dragon blood from Capella. Now, I'm going to be coming onto the dragon blood shortly because Subaru now has insane regeneration when it comes to his leg. So I wonder if Subaru's going to use this new power to his advantage. Anyways, the episode today was really good, but I do want to point out, and this seems to be a recurring trend with Crunchyroll, the subs are absolute dog. They're absolute trash, okay? And this is pretty much every episode. There's major mistranslations, and so this is something that I might make a video about in the future, but I think from memory, every episode there's been like a really bad translation. Jarek, hopefully I'm saying his name right, on Twitter or X is pretty much been compiling them, but there's speculation that these are not being hand translated, it's like AI translations. To be fair, like Yen Press, when they translate, they get things wrong most of the time. I literally made a video called Do Not Support ReZero, mainly because Yen Press's translations are so bad. So I don't mind AI translation, but when it gets this bad, considering this is like this is not like a light novel, right? This is just a 20-minute episode, so it should be able to be hand translated or by a Japanese speaker or English speaker. So what was mistranslated? Unironically, this comes during the crux of the episode. The whole episode is about the knight's conditions, right? And we have Subaru having this amazing speech near the end where he talks about the conditions to be a knight, right? And, you know, he looks to Julius for backing. And this is mistranslated in the actual Crunchyroll subs. So on screen you can see the subs, which this is how it should have been written. It says, "You can't demand the same from ordinary folks whose home was suddenly turned into a battlefield." It then goes on. "The cultists made their decision, and only those with at least equal resolve should face them." Of course, he's referring to himself, and Julius and the rest of them will fight because they have that resolve, right? And it shouldn't be expected that these citizens who have lost everything should be required to fight. The Crunchyroll sub says, "But questioning the resolve of the people who've had their city turned into a battleground is wrong." Again, this sounds very similar to the first correct image, but then it goes on to say gibberish. "People who've made up their minds need to be met by people with the same degree of resolve." There's no discussion about the Sin Archbishops and this idea of facing them, having the resolve that, you know, Subaru and Julius and the rest of them have the resolve to face the Sin Archbishops. All of that nuance is lost. So a reminder that Crunchyroll is a paid service, but the quality you get from it is dreadful. It's similar to the Yen Press light novels, where there's numerous mistranslations and errors, and again, like, I don't know why people buy the content when you're getting trash in return. So moving on from the trash translations, I do want to focus on CGI. If you watched my videos, you sort of know that I don't really like CGI in anime. If you've watched Overlord Season 3 or any shows like that, you know how bad CGI can get. So when I saw CGI in this episode, I was skeptical. However, I can say ReZero is a masterpiece and it proved me wrong. The fact that they used a CGI element in the sort of fight sequence with Priscilla was amazing. The way the camera sort of rotated around and Priscilla was slashing them up like it was a Devil May Cry combo showed me that you can use CGI to a good effect. And it was actually really amazing. I actually respect Priscilla a lot more. You can see she's quite skilled as a fighter. Even Subaru was surprised. I also think one of the things most people might miss is actually Emilia's development in this actual episode. We've seen Emilia as the sort of damsel in distress, always looking for Subaru to come help her. But this episode again shows that Emilia is not this one-dimensional character that always needs Subaru's help. She decides that she wants to play some Prince of Persia, and she scales on the outside of the building. And of course she sees Regulus talking to someone else, and she's able to deduce where Capella is. So again, I know in the side stories, Emilia is portrayed as an airhead, a dunce, an idiot, and maybe even some more less savory terms, but she is actually intelligent when she needs to be intelligent. And we also see that in the ending credits, Emilia comes into contact with Aldebaran via the conversation mirror, which again leads back to the shady element of it. Regulus was literally talking on that mirror to Capella, because, he called her, like a good-for-nothing, meat-loving woman or whatever, and then Emilia picks it up like a minute later, and Aldebaran's on the call. So that means that Aldebaran must be where Capella is. How did he get the mirror from Capella? What's going on? These are things to be thinking about. Capella also said she wasn't the one that opened the floodgates, and I don't see a reason why she would lie about that. We know Capella was fighting Subaru and the rest of them when the flood sort of started, so obviously it wasn't her. So the question is, who was it? Who was it that opened the floodgates? In addition to that, on the subject of Al being a bit suspicious, we get the continuation of his storyline in the actual break time episode, and what we see is Subaru and Al discuss their origins, essentially asking whether or not they told anyone else. And essentially Al says no, because if I told someone, I would be seen as crazy. And essentially most people in the rezero world believe that Subaru and Al are from beyond the Great Waterfall. Beatrice explains what the Great Waterfall is, explaining that at the edge of the world there's a waterfall that washes everyone away, and some people claim to come from beyond there. And again, it's such a shame that this is in the break time episode and most people won't see it. We see that Priscilla also accepts Aldebaran's explanation and calls him a jester. Regardless, at the ending credits scene, you do see a really shady shot of Aldebaran looking back at Subaru, Emilia, and Beatrice. Again, it looks like it has a sort of sad emotion here, and you can see Subaru sort of glowing with light around him. So what is this trying to invoke? Again, Aldebaran is probably the most interesting character in ReZero.